and welcome to my channel. My name is Gloria Diazevedo, and today I want to share with you some of my most recent shopping purchases and haul at Wool-Tyme, which is one of the local yarn stores here in Ottawa. I have done past Wool-Tyme hauls before, and recently they had another Big 10 sale a couple months ago. And I had a gift card from my mother-in-law, so I had to check out the deals, and I want to show you what we got. At the time of filming, this is actually like a month or two later after purchasing it, so it's also a bit of a surprise for me as to try to remember what I got and why I bought it. Maybe I had a project in mind, maybe I didn't. So here we go. First, let me show you the bag. The bag is this big. This big right now. I think during pandemic times, instead of using shopping baskets, which they have to like constantly like sanitize and clean, they give you a large garbage bag where you can carry around the store and put everything in it, and then it's just also your checkout bag, so you can't really buy more than you can carry, which is fine. So yeah, let's see what we got. Okay, first at the top we have, I bought two of these. We have these 5 packs of Pattons Shetland Chunky Tweeds. So I bought 2 of these, which is kind of a lot. Oh, sorry, they're not 5 packs, they're 6 packs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And each pack, it says here was $25. So I don't want to open the bag right now, but I'll hold one up for you to see. So these are, I think it's like a bulky weight. So it says bulky weight gauge is 6mm knitting needle, and for a 4" by 4" swatch, you get 15 stitches to 20 rows. For crochet, they recommend a 6mm hook. Or a USJ/10, and in a 10 by 10 centimeter swatch, they recommend about 11 single crochets and 12 rows. It says you can use machine wash, but maybe don't use the dryer, I believe. So anyways, and each skein is 85 grams or about 3 ounces, and there's 125 yards or 114 meters. It's by Patins. It is 72% acrylic, 25% wool, and 3% viscose, which I assume the viscose is for the little nubs. I don't know what the colorway is called. It just says Aran Tweed Aran. I don't know if there's a color. But I called it Funfetti, like birthday cake, because it's kind of like the little sprinkles in like a vanilla birthday cake. That's what this reminds me of. So it's actually a really fun colorway, and I think it's pretty gender neutral, but also interesting. So you still get like basically a tonal color if you wanted to make a big sweater. You don't have to worry about like color pooling or anything like that. You don't have to worry about coordination. It's probably all one dye lot, so definitely you can use it for a bigger project. Maybe not enough here for a blanket, but definitely for like a very oversized sweater or two. I was thinking about making, I don't know if you know Stephanie Lau from All About Amy. She has a couple of like fairly good beginner sweater patterns, so you can also make them, some of them are written to be made piecewise, so you make 2 panels, you make 2 sleeves, you make the back, and then you sew it all together, and then you add a collar. She also has, I believe the Dottie cardigan and the Ridgeline cardigan are potentially written in one piece, where you start from the bottom and you knit the front panels and the back all the way up to your armholes, basically, and then you separate and you do 2 short front panels, and then you do 1 back panel, and then you attach it back at the top with the 3 needle bind off. So for me personally, I don't like steaming. I would rather do it in this piecewise fashion, picking up the stitches again. Once it's kind of like in a vest format, then you make the collar, which you pick up the stitches, and then you pick up stitches for your sleeves, and then you knit your sleeves. So I prefer that kind of construction, but I know it's not for everyone. Some people don't mind seaming, and that's great. So anyways, that's only if you want a new beginner pattern that's pretty chunky and pretty quick to knit up, and definitely great for beginners, and also like for me, I'm a bit more intermediate. It's a really good like car knitting project or a TV knitting project where I'm not so worried about, you know, lace stitches and counting stitches and things like that. So it's just row by row, and you just keep going. So anyways, that's why I bought these 2. So again, it was 6 balls for $25. This little $25. I guess they get them from the factory directly, so they get a bit of a deal for these. So anyways, I'm really excited. Don't know when I'll make all of these. Maybe a sweater, maybe some chunky sweaters, or I mean, if I have leftovers as well, they can also be made into hats. I probably could use 1 skein for like a pretty good hat. for gifts as well. There's lots of like crochet patterns, knit patterns to make really quick hats for gifts, for markets. And some people like knit and crochet to sell things at the markets. So definitely that's something that is really good deal for these if you are preparing for something like that. For us, Christmas is coming up soon, so I do like to have a couple extra hats and gifts on hand just in case you get a surprise gift from, you know, a neighbor or friend and you don't want to, you kind of want to give something back, but you don't have time to make it immediately with everything else going on at the holiday season. So anyways, long story short, pretty good deal. I paid $50 for 12 skeins, so around 4 something per skein. So it's not a super bad deal. Okay, then the next thing is I bought was these this package of Pattons Croy socks. It's kind of a rainbow. It says it's called Meadow Stripes. So there's pink, there's red, there's green, there's blue, and it's a self pattern or self striping sock yarn. Each one of these is 50 grams or 1.75 ounces, and they each have 166 yards or 152 meters. It's 75% wool and 25% nylon. And so I think on the other labels, it's a super fine 1 yard, so like a fingering or sock weight. They recommend a 2.75 millimeter knitting needle or 3.25 millimeter crochet hook. I think it's machine washable. So yeah, so I know roughly one of these will be 1 sock. So normally it's 100 grams skein, then you can make 2 socks out of it. But for these, we need around at least 1 per sock. Depending on how big your sock is. If it's for like a man with very large feet, then you might need a bit more than 1, or you might want to add like a contrasting heel, toe, or cuff at the top. But I mainly bought this because I'm trying to teach my mother-in-law how to make socks, and I think she's running out of this, and I had bought this colorway at another store, so I'm hoping that the match will be close enough in case she runs out of yarn, so she can have like 1 or 2 to finish up what her socks are, and then I can also make other socks and accessories with the rest of this, because even if I gave her 2, that would still leave me like with 200 grams of with sock yarn essentially, and so you can still make probably a cowl or a hat or something like that with this. So still a good option. But yeah, the color pooling will be a little bit differently. I don't remember if there's self-striping or not, but if you obviously go from a sock into self-striping and then you make a hat, it may not really be self-striping and you may get some weird color pooling depending on the multiple and the circumference of the hat. So just keep that in mind when you find sock yarn and you want to try and use it in different projects. Definitely do a gauge swatch and then also be open to maybe it looking a little bit interesting. If that's the case, if you do have color pooling, you don't really want it, what you can do is alternate skeins, which is easy, especially if you have a lot of little ones. So you can just say, I'll start from the middle of this ball, the middle of this ball, and then I'll do 1 row in this first ball, and then I just carry the other one on the same one, then I do a row in that one. So it'll definitely be more variegated, and it's also a really interesting way to play with color. So this package, should say on here. Oh, this is also $25 for 6. So it's the same price as one of these, even though that one I guess is more yarn, but this one is made out of more wool. There's more wool content in the sock, so that's probably why it's a little bit more expensive per ounce. Anyways, okay. The next item here is, my next yarn pack is called Pattons Metallic, and I've never seen this before, to be honest. I've only seen it at this tent sale, and there's only 1 purple left, so I went ahead and grabbed it because I love purple. I don't know what I'm going to make with it, but this one, I think I can even open it. Let's open it and see what it is. The other ones are like sealed shut, so I don't really want to open the package without this one, but this one has a flap, so okay, so feeling it, it's actually softer than it looks. I was expecting something kind of crunchy, but it's actually kind of like a ribbon almost. A ribbon. It doesn't seem very stretchy. Like it doesn't feel very stretchy. It looks like, I don't know, hopefully you can see, but it looks like very small thin threads are like almost knit together like an I-cord, or how it's knit together in a cord, machine wise obviously. So I think with the cord kind of, or chainette construction, maybe it's less stretchy because there's already a lot of tension on the mini stitches in the cord. So something to keep in mind, but I think the drape will be a lot better because there's no springiness to it. It just falls as it falls, so I'd probably use a larger gauge. So this one, in terms of all the information about the yarn, it's a medium 4, so about a worsted weight. For knitting, they recommend a 5mm needle, and for crochet, they also recommend a 5mm hook. This says hand wash and lay flat to dry. This one ball has 230 meters or 252 yards, which is pretty generous for a worsted weight skein, especially since it's not a full 100. This is only 85 grams or 3 ounces. And it says 63% nylon, 28% acrylic, 9% wool. I'm not really sure where the wool is. Maybe it's on the inside. Because this doesn't feel like the shininess usually does not correlate with wool. It also has recommendations like if you want to make a hat, you only need 1 ball. If you want to make a scarf with roughly these dimensions, it's 2 balls. And then for a sweater, it's 6 to 10 balls. So I have 6, so I guess I could make a sweater, but that would be... Maybe you could make like a really slinky like evening top if you have like a spaghetti top. That could be interesting, and then you can layer it with some other stuff. You can put a blazer on top to like formalize it a bit, so you just have a little bit of, when you wear a blazer, you know, you just have like a little bit of the center peeking out. So that'd be a really interesting way to do it. You can also use a trim for other projects. If maybe you can have like this in the front, like a normal sweater, and then maybe in the back you have some detailing or something. So like if you wear a sweater or a blazer on top of it, you know, you switch from day to night, and then you're like, okay, now I'm ready to party. This feels like the yarn for that, and it's really not scratchy. Like, I don't know, maybe it's gonna be different once you start using it like knitting and crocheting, but usually with these kind of specialty yarns, I find it to be a little bit more rough or coarse, just because of the fibers that are in it. And this was very, very smooth. Like I can't really show you, but there's no halo. It's not catching on itself. I feel like this one is really nice, so I'm really interested to see what you can do. This, oh, I forgot to mention the colorway is metallic dark purple. So, and I think they must all be the same colorway. So I think for sure if you have 6 balls of worsted weight, you could probably make definitely a short sleeve tee in most sizes. Or if not, you can make like a stellar looking top or a hat or a scarf or something like that. Or maybe even a bag, because I don't feel like it's very stretchy. So I feel like if you held it double or something, you could probably crochet like a pretty sturdy bag, and that could be an accent piece as well. So there's a lot of options, I think, for this yarn. I don't know if I was really thinking about them all when I bought this, but it's very fun. And so I can put this back in the package. And does it say how much it tasted? Oh, it was $15 for 6 balls. So that's also a pretty good deal. So that's about 2 something per ball, which is not bad. All right. Okay, the next items. Okay, the next 2 I actually bought for my sister-in-law because I was calling her while I was shopping for her at the same time. So these 2, I think they're the same. These 2 are Katya Spring Rainbow cotton cakes. So they're very similar to the hobby ones if you want to watch my other videos, where you have like a very self-made gradient like this. So this one's like a light lavender to like a peachy pink, salmon pink, and this one is like electric blue to electric pink with some electric purple in the middle. And it's very fun. So how they do that is for one strand of yarn, there's actually like 4 mini threads, and then basically the threads will change color one at a time. So you get like all 4 pink, and then maybe one of those 4 will turn purple, and then 2 of them will turn purple, and 3 of them will turn purple, and the other one's pink, and then they'll all be purple. Oops, sorry. It's falling off the chair. And then they'll slowly change colors into the next one, but I guess just the way that, because it's 4 threads at once, it doesn't feel like a very sudden change. It is kind of a bit of a fade, but not quite a fade in terms of it was purposefully dyed that way. It's kind of constructed fade, but without you doing all the work to fade the yarns in yourself, so that's kind of nice. Anyways, this also has a little bead to start, which I think is really helpful, because sometimes especially if you're crocheting, I think when you like start to grab the threads, they're not tightly, if you can see, it's not tightly plied together. So it is possible to only grab like one of, or not all 4, like maybe you only get 2 or 3. So you might get some like splitting yarn in your work, which is kind of noticeable, especially for crochet, because the extra strand of yarn will just be floating in the air in your work. So depending on what kind of pattern you're using, it can be very noticeable. If it's in a lacy pattern, maybe not so noticeable because there's a lot more empty space. But if it's something thick like single crochets or double crochets to make like I don't know how to say, like a denser material, sorry, then you'll notice it. So anyways, the bead is really helpful because as you start pulling the yarn, you can just keep moving the bead and it'll kind of push these strands together, as you can kind of see here. So Hobby, I find the case for those, they don't have a bead, but they recommend if you have a bead of your own, you can keep like pushing it down on the yarn to keep it together. So this one has a center pull, so it's also easy to start, which is nice. And then I'm sure you can also pull it from the outside. But anyways, let me tell you about the actual yarn itself. So I mentioned it was cotton. It is only 50% cotton and 50% acrylic. Approximately 600 to 656 yards. 600 meters to 656 yards, plus or minus a little bit. For knitting needles, they recommend 4 to 5 millimeter or sizes 6 to 8. And for crochet, I think it's size 4. It must be 4 millimeters. The whole skein or the whole cake is about 150 grams, or 5 and a third ounces. This colorway is color 63, and this was machine washable, cold, I think. And yeah, I don't think you should dry it. I would personally hand wash this as well because the colors are really vibrant. It was on sale for $14.99, and originally at Wool-Tyme it was $27.50. So about half off, which is not a bad deal. And it's a bit more expensive, I guess, than hobby yarns, because if you buy them on sale like those twisters, it can be as low as like $10 to $12 each. But I can't remember if they're 100 grams or 200 grams. So you have to kind of take that into account. Those might be fully cotton, and then this is like part cotton, part acrylic. So if some people don't like the feeling of full cotton, it might be a little bit more harsh, and then the acrylic blend adds a little bit more softness to it. So it's all in personal preference. I think this is my sister-in-law's first time trying this yarn. So I guess we'll see what she thinks afterwards. So again, this is the same content, but this one has, again, it's also the same price, same content. It has the little bead, and it goes from this very pretty salmon color to this like lavender. I think she bought it for the lavender. I don't know if she likes pink, but it's okay. It's pretty. It's pretty. I would have kept it for myself, but I bought it for her. Okay. All right. And then the last section of stuff. Oh, almost. And then I got another sock yarn, because you can never have enough sock yarn. I'm trying this new formula where I do 2 at a time and toe up, but one of my issues with making socks is that if I just make a sock tube, sometimes the gauge is not as where I want it to be, if that makes sense. If I make sock tubes and they cut a heel, it's okay. But I'm still like practicing where to cut the heel, and it depends on the person. Because obviously everyone's feet are different, and even if you go online and say, what's a woman's size 7 or something, like where should I cut it? It really depends on like, how long your toes are, where your heel is, and machine knit socks or socks that you buy from the store, they're a lot more forgiving in terms of like negative ease. So like it can go, as they say, like, women's 9 to 11 sizes or something like that, right? But like when you make a hand knit one, there's not as much negative ease, so you don't, like, if they're custom made, you want them to fit. And one tip online that I recently started using was for your recipient. So say it's myself. I take a piece of cardboard and I trace my foot on it, and then on there I write like, you indicate where your toes end, you indicate where your heel is, and then also you indicate, like, as you make them, you figure, like my width would be roughly 60 inches or 60 stitches to get the perfect circumference around it. So then next time when I'm knitting myself socks, I don't have to like try it on every time, especially if you're on the go, you don't want to take off your shoes and your socks, that's just gross. So I have this cardboard like pattern for my foot, and as I'm working, or if I do a more complex version where you're shaping a heel and you're shaping a gusset, I can just put my little cardboard foot into the sock and say, look, it fits my cardboard. It looks where my heel starts. So now I can just start doing, your decreases or your increases for the heel and gusset without having to always try them on myself. And I don't have to count rows. Sometimes you're doing just like knit. You don't want to count the rows. So you just put your little foot in. You're like, wow, this makes sense. And then that's how you can knit socks for someone that, you don't always try it on. So I'm trying this out, this new technique. And so far it's going well. I'll let you know if the gift recipient, after I got their foot cut out or their foot traced, how the socks fit afterwards. So I'll keep you posted. Anyways, long and short of it is I saw this sock yarn on sale, and I'm like, wow, I'm going to become more of a sock knitter now, because I know this new technique, even though I have a lot of sock yarn. Don't tell my husband, I have a lot of sock yarn. But this one was on sale. I've never seen this color before. It's very cute. You can see actually for some of these comfort stocking wool color ones, they have like a little preview of how it's supposed to knit up. Hopefully you can see it. Like how the color is gonna go. They have a lot of other interesting ones where they have like stripes, and then they'll have like speckles, and then stripes and speckles, like all within the same sock. So it's really fun, like color work, but not really. You don't have to do any work for the color work. So I like those. It keeps it interesting versus just like a single color. Okay. Also, this skein of yarn was only $9.99, so $10 is kind of what I'm used to paying at like bigger warehouse yarn stores like Wool-Tyme for one 100-gram skein of yarn. I don't know. Sometimes if it's lower, like $7.50, I'm like, wow, what a deal. But I think around $10 for like big brand sock yarn. Obviously, hand-dyed stuff is like, you know, $30, definitely more than $25 per skein, which is fine because I understand that there's more labor involved in all that. You know, small businesses is fine. But I guess for these machine-made ones, I go for like $10 is usually my range. $15 if I really like the colorway, or up to $20 is kind of like my limit for one of these big brands. Again, so this is about 100 grams, and they recommend for knitting is 2.5 to 3.5 millimeter. For me, I used to do 2.5 millimeter needles, but they always had the gauge was too big. So I've switched to 2.25s, which is great, but it has to be my special bamboo 2.25 needles. So I can only make one pair of socks at a time. Even like the metal version I have, which is 2.25, it seems like, I guess the stitches don't slide as well, I guess. Like there are some natural variances in the material of the needle. So I can only use one type of needle for now, which is okay too. There's a lot of trial and error with knitting socks, obviously. So yeah, you have to find your own groove, and it is what it is. These are machine washable, they claim, but maybe for the first couple times I would hand wash them. But there's actually just a really, like I was really drawn to it because it's like pink and purple. There's like a little bit of a blue fade, and then not to make it so like kid-ish, like a little girl, like they have this like gray stripes here and there. So I think that makes it a bit more interesting. Anyways, I've talked way too much for this ball of yarn. $9.99, not a bad deal. They had lots of other colors, but I was only really drawn to this one because I already bought lots of other stuff. So anyways, put that aside. Okay, finally, I bought more sock yarn. That's what I also bought. And here they are. Oh, I don't even know if I can hold them all in one go. Let's see if I can hold them all in one go. There's a lot of stripes. It's a lot of purple. They had a lot of purple here. So I bought, I think, every single one that had purple in it. And I'll tell you about it. So each of these was $15, which I just went over saying, like, if it's $15, it's kind of on the high end for these, like, big brand names. This one is, I think it's the brand is Diamond Luxury. But the kicker is this one has 60% superwash wool, and it has 20% alpaca and 20% nylon. So this one, I think, only has, okay, I didn't even say it. I think it's 75% wool, superwash wool, and 25% polyamide, which is like basically nylon. It's the stuff that keeps it more durable so things don't disintegrate on your feet. Sorry, I forgot to mention. So this one's mostly wool, a little bit of nylon. This one is wool and alpaca, so I pay a little bit more for natural alpaca fibers. I don't buy alpaca very often, so I'm kind of like, it's a bit of a splurge, but I think it's worth it. So this one is color 39. So basically all 6 of these are the same brand. They're all this Diamond Luxury Soxy Lady. Soxy Lady, I think that's hilarious. 100 grams, 400 meters, or 437 yards. As you can see, it's $14.99. And it was in their warehouse sale, so it also recommends 3 millimeter knitting needles. It was made in Peru, machine wash gentle. With alpaca, I actually wouldn't machine wash this. It's just so soft, I just don't want to ruin it. At least like the first few times I wear them, and then once they're kind of like, oh, they're not going to disintegrate, maybe I'll wash them by machine, but anyways, we'll see. Lay flat to dry as usual with most knitted items. If you hang them, they will stretch. I think each yarn is also 4-ply, and you can also see, hopefully, this like a little bit of halo, which is probably the alpaca fibers, how they're woven in and blended into each individually plied yarn, and then it's plied together. So this one is a very tonal purple, and there's a little bit of brown. I don't want to say brown, but I also don't want to say orange, but it's like a darker purple with some different undertones. So this is the most tonal out of all of them. I don't know, I'm gonna say color 39. That doesn't really mean anything to me or you, so unless you wanted to look it up later to know what its actual retail price was, go for it. This one, I'll just go through all of them. This one is a lighter gray. It has a bit of darker purple and a bit of burgundy, like wine color. The way that it looks here, it might be self-striping. It's hard to tell unless you like really wind it and start knitting with it. But just like based on what I've seen from other yarns I hand dyed or not, like this, when it's self-striping in the skein, it might be like self-striping in when it's knitted. So I guess we'll see. I don't think it's a fade because usually these things are not fades. I've never seen a machine made fade sock yarn. So most likely it's a self-striping sock because that's pretty common. So there's that one. This one is colorway 41. This one has basically black, a bit of gray, and really dark, like violet purple. Hopefully the phone. Okay. Anyways, this one's also pretty tonal, but like in this lighting, you can see that there potentially is some stripes or some other just like random colorways going on, which is fun. But this one and this one could be good together. Like I could see these in the same project. Just like the purple from either one of them kind of complement each other in terms of like how dark it is as compared to like this burgundy one, which is a lot lighter. Although this one could also be paired with this one. This is why I bought all 6 because I didn't really know what I was going to do with it. Theoretically, potentially, they could all be made into like some massive shawl blanket with a fade or coordinating colors. Or I'll make 6 pairs of socks, who knows, and then take the scraps and make a hat. Like, there's a lot of options for this type of yarn, especially because it has that nylon durability in it because it's made for socks. I would actually think it's okay for some like frequently worn accessories like scarves, cowls, hats. Where if it's like, for example, a single ply yarn, I might want to consider holding it with something because the single ply can break really easily. And once you break that part, then like you're at risk of like unraveling your project. So anyways, back to this. My next one here, this is colorway 27. So this one is fun because it has purple, like a bit of purple, but it's also very blue. It has a bit of green, turquoise, teal, and it has a bit of like this almost black, dark purple streak in it. So again, this one might be self-striping as well. So it'll be really interesting to see how this knits up. This one doesn't really go with the first 3 I just mentioned, but the other 2 are also like this extremely, like, I want to call it like electric kind of colorways where you have like this bit of yellow, like really sets off the other colors. This one has red, it has burgundy, it has purple, it has blue, it has black. Like this one is, I don't think it's like a rainbow really. Like I don't see orange, but I think it's fun. I think the yellow, like normally I don't buy yellow. Yellow's like not one of my colors that I'm drawn to. But I think the yellow really sets it off in these 3 colorways. This one is not not a bright yellow, but it's probably a pastel yellow. But somehow it really works with the other purples and the blacks. A little bit of brown, like barely pink. So I think maybe it just like brings it all together versus just having like a really bright spot unnecessarily in like otherwise really muted colorways. So I think these 3 together are like fairly coordinating. Could be individual, could be kind of together. These 3 not so coordinating, but if I put them together, I don't think I'd hate it, you know? Especially I think these 2 are closer together. This one might be more with this yellow one. Because there's no blue in this version, there's no blue, and this one has less blue, this one has more blue. So anyways, if I had to put these 2 together, it would be like this. The yarn is absolutely super soft, but I haven't worked with it yet, so I will keep you posted. There is a lot of like alpaca hair that's shedding, so I don't know how that will wear over time. But yeah, so that is actually all my haul today. And I did have a gift card, and I already forgot how much this cost, so I'm not going to worry about it. But I've told you how much everything costs. So if you want to rewind this video, watch it again, and add it all up and tell me how much I spent, that's okay. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope to share with you some of the things I make in eventual videos. So thank you for joining me. Check out some of my other videos and other hauls I've done for Wool-Tyme, other yarn stores here in Canada. And I hope to see you next time. Hope you have a great day. Bye!